For we are live. Wow! I have no idea what that sound is.
That's
It's just a
reverb.
bunch of echo, just going off on echo.
That, that's cool.
Nice.
That's cool.
Silliness.
Right on.
Fun.
Rick Stojak and his multiple bitchin' toys.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Everybody, I'm Bart Robley. Welcome to Drummers Education Connection. I'm here with two of the greatest human beings ever to grace the face of the earth. Off to my left. Hey, I got it right this time. I always get it backwards. My good friend in Tucson, Arizona, Chip the Ritter. Splitter Ritter, Chip.
Hello.
And down in San Diego, Rick Blowback Stojak. What's
Hey,
happening,
baby.
buddy? How are
What's
you?
happening?
I don't know why I have to do those stupid names.
I
don't
like
know why.
'em.
I like
like
it too. I like it too. Welcome to Drummers Education Connection, everybody. Today, what we're going to be talking about is we're talking about lessons from the road. And the idea is here that the lessons from the road are not so much as drum lessons, but what I've learned from being on the road for years and years and years with the Sam Morrison Band, and doing touring all over the place and stuff like that. That's what today's show is about, and so we're going to talk about that. Before we get started, though, we are going to be doing what we normally do, and that is our Patreon and our good things. So Patreon is if you want to help us keep the lights on and you want to donate to the show, you can do that. Go to our Patreon page. Chip is going to put that in a link to the video below here on Facebook. And then good things, and that's just good things that are happening with us. One of the things I do want to address before we get started here today, though, the only place we are streaming today is on Facebook. We are not streaming on YouTube, just simply because what's happening is Jeremy is our normal admin. And since he's our normal admin, we are only streaming to the Facebook page, not to the YouTube page. But I will pull it down and then put it up on YouTube for future viewing later today, as soon as the stream is over. So that's what we're doing right now. So good things. I'm gonna throw it over to Rick in San Diego, because Chip is busy typing away, I can tell. Rick, what is good that is happening in your life? What are the good things that are happening for you?
You know, I had an incredible honor. Stefano Ashbridge, one of the top drum teachers in the country in LA,
Yes,
LAlessons.com,
Yep.
has a podcast, The Drum Set Shrink. And a listener question was your top 5 method books. And,
Oh, cool.
and he put me in there. He said in no particular order, but he put How to Build a Drum Groove first. And he put me up there with
Nice.
stick control and syncopation and Tommy Igoe and New Breed.
You're in good company.
That's
Man,
awesome, bud.
I've been walking on clouds after that. I mean, it's very, very nice. So thank you, and I'm grateful for that. And all the hard work pays off, right?
Excellent.
awesome,
And it really
man.
does. It
Yep.
really, really, really does. It
Yeah.
does pay off. So way to go. Way to go.
Yeah. Thank you,
Um,
Stefano. Check out his podcast, The Drum Set Shrink. He has
The
short little 5-minute sessions that he does.
The whole podcast is just real short like
Yeah,
that.
he does like little 5-minute and under episodes for his podcast.
Hey, that's kind of cool.
I know.
You know what? I saw that. I saw a thing about him having a podcast, and I think that's tremendous. That's great. That's very
Yeah.
cool. Very
He's
cool.
a fellow Sabian player, Bart.
He is. I remember meeting him at Sabian days when a couple of years ago when we did NAMM. Rick, or when we didn't have NAMM and we went to the Sabian thing when you and I went. Rick, Chip
Yeah.
Ritter, what's happening with you? What good things are happening with you in Tucson, my friend?
Man, I think I talked about this before, but I'm still stoked about it. And I'm happy to say that I'm working on a collaboration with another drummer friend of mine from Australia. He's sent me over a bass track with a click in it, and I'm going to play drums to it and record a video of me doing that, then send it over to him, and he's going to layer that with some bass, and we're going to have some chip funk. It's going to be cool.
Oh, right on, man. That's so cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing my best.
Yeah.
That is fantastic, man. That is so cool. That is so cool. Very, very, very good.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that, man. How about you, Bart? What's going on with you?
You know, I got a lot of good things happening. I just had my new book come out. It's actually coming out. It's going to be on 2 platforms, and I forgot my ASAP thing over there. I'll go get it in a moment and show it before the end of the podcast. Anyway, my new book is out on Hudson Music. Chip, I think, put a link in the video to this to the live video right now below. To Hudson Music. So if you want to check out my book on Hudson Music, you can go there. Chip's going to put a link in the podcast here to that. And then we are going to have it out on Hal Leonard as well. And that's going to be a hard copy. And right now, if you go to my website, bartrobley.com, and check it out, I have a link there to buy the book. And if you buy the book, you get a free copy of my Drums ASAP Rudiments Plus. I'm going to throw that in with it. And what that is the original 26 rudiments that were recognized by the National Association of Rudimental Drummers. You can download the rudiments from there. And on the back of that, if that's not enough, my solo, one of my solos for my upcoming book called Etudes with Attitude. There's a solo on there called The Attack of Mark the Shark. And it has the transcription of that solo. You can download the solo and play along with it. It's a lot of fun. I'm throwing that in for free. And if you buy the book, you get a dream date with Chip Ritter. And who doesn't want a dream date with Chip Ritter?
And I provide the chapstick.
That's it. So that's what I got going on. SMB was on tour all year. That's what we're going to talk about in today's episode of the things that you kind of learn as a touring drummer and what you can pass on to not only your students, but your fellow drummers. So that's my good things. That's my good things.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and there's my segue into the show, right? So what I wanted to talk about today, and you know what? I would be remiss. Check out my shirt. This is Bandworks. Our friend Jeremy Steinkohler is not here today.
Nice.
Steamroller.
He's being represented, the Steamroller. I'm wearing his shirt, Bandworks. They're celebrating their 30th anniversary. That's huge. That's fantastic. So thank you for the t-shirt, Jeremy. So yeah, so being on the road with the band, there are so many things that we think it is, and it's not. You know, a lot of times people think, well, gosh, I want to be in a band and I want to be on the road and I want to go out on tour. And it is not at all. I mean, not even close to what you think it is. It's not at all what you think it is, being on tour and being on the road. And I have students and fellow drummers and people all the time that ask me about it, and you know, they say that they want to get their big break, they want to get their big gig, they want to they want to go out on the road. And I'm like, well, careful what you pray for, because man, I tell you what, once you're there and there's that point of no turning back, whether it's you're in the car and you're driving down the road, or if you are you know, wherever you are, you know, in the airplane backing out, whatever it is that you are doing, wherever you are doing it, you're going to learn. You're going to learn from that experience, and it's not easy being on the road. It just isn't. So that's what we're going to talk about. So
yeah, I've had many people who've said, "Man, I wish I had that easier life of being a musician than the career I took," and they might not be aware of what's involved with being a professional musician. And they just see that hour or hour and a half on stage and think, man, that's so glamorous, but they don't see all of the work that goes behind it.
What's that, like that meme that they do with the iceberg, and the very tip of it is like the performance and the live show.
Yeah.
And underneath is that massive amount of ice. It's like, this is all the work that it takes to get there. And you don't see that when you see the finished product.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one thing that I tell like every single one of my students. I tell them all the time that the when you see somebody doing something they're really good at, when they're doing something that they're just fantastic at, you are witnessing the end result of years of hard work, right?
Yes.
And that's what it does take to get there. And the hard work is not the show. That's the easy part of the gig. The hard part of the show is driving for, an unbelievable amount of hours in a bus or a van or a whatever to get to your destination. And then after you're there, you have 20 minutes to drop your stuff off in the hotel room, grab something to eat, not fill yourself up with junk food, go get set up and go do the show. It's an immense amount of work. So that's kind of that's what I want to address today. I think the one thing that, without having, off the air, Rick and I were talking, and he said to me, he goes, how do you get a lot of this stuff done? And really, the thing that I do is it's just a work ethic. What it takes, I think, to get stuff done is a big work ethic. And it's not sleeping in till 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's not, okay, the show's over and now I'm going to go hang out for 30 minutes and then I'm going to go talk to this person. Then I'm going to go tear down the gear. It's this work ethic that is always there. And so that's kind of what I think we need to talk about and what we need to address. Rick, when you've been on the road, and Chip, when you've been on the road, I'm gonna throw it to Rick first. But while I ask this of Rick, what's the hardest thing for you about being on the road?
I think getting good sleep is always kind of tough. That and good nutrition. Those are the two.
Right.
Those are it. Yeah.
I've addressed that in a couple of my videos that kind of prompted today's episode, and I am going to address those. How do you, and tell what I talk about. So what do you do for nutrition? How do you get good nutrition? What do you do?
Well, it's not just getting quality nutrition. It's you can't, sometimes you're hungry and there's no food available. Mm-hmm. So I had some rules on the road that I always abide by, and that's sleep when you can, eat when you can, and use the facilities when you can. Those three. And that is actually a big deal, that last one, actually. People don't realize that part of it. That's a whole topic.
When you're driving down the road and you see that sign that says Nick's Rest Stop 100 miles.
Yeah. Well, I know you asked about food, but while we're on this subject, because everybody's wondering about this now, on a bus, on a tour bus, right? Liquids work in the restroom while the bus is moving. And you're on a schedule, and you don't want to be the one in the band. Can we pull over? Can we pull over?
Yeah.
So no number two, folks. That can be pretty gnarly. So I've never experienced it, but I've heard the term hot bagging it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you can't get the bus to stop. The bus is driving through the night while everybody's trying to sleep, and you've got to go. I mean, so that's a tricky thing. So hopefully we didn't scare anyone from being a touring musician yet.
Nope, not yet. Now, what about food? What about nutrition? Because that's a big one. That is a big one. What do you do about it? I've got a whole thing about that.
It begins with healthy eating habits in your normal life and having very, very healthy having a very, very healthy, nutritious, energizing diet. I'm very fortunate. My wife, Julia, is an ace at creating, organic, healthy meals that are very, very energizing. So you kind of got to get in that zone. And if you're like, oh, I'm going to eat healthy on the road, and you don't do it at home, what's the difference? So
Yeah.
it's just a branch. It's just a segue of what you do at home and just attempt to do it on the road. So, avoiding all the bad foods as much as possible. Really watching carbs too. That's like a big thing. Watching, you'd be surprised at how filling salad and maybe like a lentil soup can be for you, and
Yeah.
how energizing that is.
Yeah.
So I think we put it in our head. Oh, I mean, before I met my wife, I was like, I have to have meat every meal. Like, I'm gonna be so hungry if I don't have meat every meal. And and I quickly realized that wasn't the truth. If you have healthy vegetables, but with some great proteins that you can find in some of the healthy breads like Ezekiel bread. Um, and What I try to do is where I can pack healthy food and bring it along with me,
There you go.
at least
That's
for
what
the
I,
road trips. Like Julia's always making me like this vegetarian sandwich with cucumber and hummus on it and
yeah.
sprouts and um, so that does help. And then of course, have an apple, have nuts, have lots of, like trail mix. And so we bring like bag after bag. This is when we travel and we go on vacation. We have bags of vegetables, bags of cauliflower, bags of tomato and broccoli, um, pumpkin seeds, walnuts, almonds, and so that's at least a good start. But the other thing that I think is important is that you have to have a little break from that healthy diet every once in a while, like the so-called cheat days. And I think the big thing is to not beat yourself up over it.
Mm.
Don't tell your body, "Oh, I'm going to gain weight from that," or beat yourself up, "Oh, I feel terrible because I ate this bad meal." And so, that has an effect on your overall energy and attitude also. So, fill your body with some good thoughts.
Right. Right.
Yep.
Now, what about you, Chip? What about like being on the road? What's the hardest thing for you? And have you experienced like the nutritious thing or nutrition thing? Is that something that's ever been an issue for you?
Man, I love what Rick said. You know what I mean? There's a lot of suggestions in what he went through and what he talked about. I personally, my experience when I was on the road with Long John Hunter throughout the US, Canada, and abroad in Europe, I did not eat well unless we were at like a 5-star restaurant or bar and restaurant that had good food there. I just didn't eat well. I tried to take trail mix and bananas and grapes and stuff like that when we had a chance to get to a grocery store. But for the most part, I didn't. I ate horrible, and I lack of sleep. That was a huge one.
Yeah.
That was huge. Having to drive all night when some of the members in the band drank. I was the only sober one, so I was, usually the guy that drove throughout the night, and that kind of wore on me. But it was so rewarding to get up on stage in front of people that were wanting to see the band. It was so rewarding to be out there playing and living my dream that I kind of made that allowances for the lack of sleep and the other stuff. One of the other hard things for me was my relationships with my family or my girlfriends, missing them, being away from them at extended periods of time. That was one of the hardest things to go through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I want to touch on, and this is a big one that I talk about, is that I've talked about in some of my small videos and I talk to my students about, and it's funny that you would bring it up, was rest, and nutrition, Rick, and Chip, you kind of echoed that whole thing. How to get sleep, driving through the night, all those things. So here's my 2 cents on it. So I'm pretty fortunate. There are a lot of times where it's a day of travel, right? A lot of fly dates. I try not to eat in the airports, not only because there's crappy food, but because, a $4 cheeseburger suddenly becomes $20, and airport food is bad. So I try not to eat in the airport. So what I do is in those cases, Cliff bars, protein bars, stuff like that. That's something that I throw in my bag. nutrition is a big one. A lot of times backstage, if they're providing meals for you, it will be a nice, sometimes you get a good home cooked meal depending on where you're at. We've run into that quite a few times. And maybe it is like, something that looks really good, but it's going to weigh you down. So I don't eat that before I play. I'll eat it after I play. So sometimes I'll have to make up a plate, put it in the refrigerator, have salads, like you said, lots of nutritional stuff. Salads, vegetables, nuts, trail mix is good, protein bars. I think that those things really will get you through to the next place where you are going to have a meal. And when you do have a meal where you are, like you said, Rick, you feel like you're going to have like a cheat meal. We go to a restaurant or something like that. A lot of times I won't eat at the restaurant, not because I'm digging my heels in and I don't want to eat, but it's like, I just don't feel like I want to either A, spend the money because you're at a restaurant that's costing quite a bit, or B, I don't want to have like some deep fried, whatever. I want to try to stay moving well during the tour, physically and mentally and everything like that. And the more junk food I put in, the more I kind of bog down. I think we all do that. So I try to eat healthy. That's something that I do try to do. Sleep is always a tough one. I've been pretty blessed that when I do sleep, I can sleep 8 hours and stuff like, most people want, but I usually do pretty good on 5 to 6 hours of sleep. And on the road, you're lucky if you can get 5 or 6 hours of quality sleep. So, but if I can, I will. Driving through the night is a bear. So I will trade off with either myself or Sam. Sometimes Walt will drive, our keyboard player. A lot of times it's me driving or Sam, and then I try to nod off and get some sleep. What I do is I have on my phone, I have my Spotify app. I've downloaded like some music that actually I do yoga to, and it's kind of zenny, kind of cool, just mellow music. And what I do is I have some noise canceling earbuds. I'll put those in, turn on the noise canceling, put on the yoga zen music, and I'm usually out like a light, and I can sleep pretty good in the back of the vehicle. We're in a pretty rare, I'm in a pretty rare thing, and I'm very thankful for it. I have to say that that when we do travel with the band, I usually, most of the time now, I get my own room if we're in a hotel, but a lot of times we hub out of Airbnbs. Sometimes we may have to drive to the gig, 3 hours to the gig and 3 hours back, 2 hours to the gig, 2 hours back. But hubbing out of an Airbnb saves you a lot of time and a lot of money, because the Airbnbs are usually a little bit less expensive than a hotel. And plus, what you don't realize, it takes time to get checked into a hotel. You walk up, you show the guy your ID, you give him your ID. You got 6 guys. He needs to see all the IDs, needs to get the keys, need to blah, 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 blah. Pretty soon you've been standing there for an hour trying to get checked into this hotel. So what we'll do is we go into an Airbnb, and usually, they're in a situation where you have enough, where everybody gets a room or gets their own little space, which is another thing I want to touch on. I think is really important to kind of have your own space, even if you're sharing a room with somebody. And then inevitably there'll be a day off in the middle of the tour. Usually it's at the front end, sometimes at the middle. Once we get into the Airbnb, we're off to a grocery store or a Walmart or something, and we stock the fridge. And there's where you get more nutritional food. There's where I take a little magic bullet on the road with me. It's a little tiny blender. I take a thing of protein powder. I usually drink almond milk. I don't drink a lot of milk. I'm not telling people how to do their diets. This is what works for me. I get almond milk. I get some thing of frozen berries, because if I get a thing of organic frozen berries, a little bit better for you. Berries are good antioxidants. So I'll get a thing of frozen berries. I'll grab a thing of bananas and protein powder, make my breakfast in the morning that way. Usually make salads for lunch. And then if I'm going to have something crappy, it's usually after the gig, I got my 2 a.m. quesadilla going.
There you go.
But that's kind of what I do as far as my food is concerned. Rest, I get it when I can. My own space, I think this is important. When you're on tour, having your own space, and it doesn't necessarily mean your own room. It could just be like, okay, I'm going to go out here on the patio, or I'm going to go sit out front, or I'm going to sit at the dining room table. Everybody else is in their own places doing their thing. I bought a new laptop this year. This will segue into what we were talking about before the show started, getting stuff done. I can work from the road. Okay. I teach from the road on days off. I'm going to talk about that. And I think those things keep the business running. They keep my teaching business running, not only with my students and keeping them happy, but this last year, one of the things I talk about, actually it was from, what's his, the guy that our first guest on deck from New York.
Alex Cohen.
Alex Cohen. He was talking, that guy's a shredder, man. That guy can
he's
play.
amazing.
Oh my God, that guy's phenomenal. So
yeah,
Alex,
what does he have for breakfast?
Right. Whatever he's eating, I want that.
Yeah.
Alex talked about how, I don't care if you're the heaviest of heavy metal guys, which he is. He goes, make sure that you go through this book, and this book. And one of them was one of my favorite books, John Riley, The Art of Bob Drumming. And so I was talking about that on one of my little videos that I do on Facebook Live when I'm on the road. And lo and behold, this last tour I picked up, I had 3 students. 2 of them were guys that were in opening bands for us. They opened to us and they signed up with lessons with me. One other guy was a guy that saw me play and wanted to sign up with us. Oh, and I see that Fred's watching. Fred Fisher, fantastic guy. He took a technology lesson with me. He wanted to get his studio wired and get his cameras set up and stuff like that. So he took a studio lesson with me. So I think having your own space, having a laptop, having your tools available to you. I'll get more later if we talk about teaching from the into how I did that, or how I do that. I think those are the things to keep your business running. And then nowadays, luckily with touring, this is different if you're overseas or you're on a cruise ship, but everybody has one of these now. And I pretty much try to either FaceTime or whatever with my wife every day, a couple times a day, in the morning, in the evening, when I'm going to bed. It kind of keeps you connected. It's not just a phone call. You can see it. So I'm so grateful and so thankful for that, because I can, we can see each other and we can, there's still this connection. I may be in, North Carolina and she's in California, but we still have that visual connection. And I think that's important. So those are kind of the ways I handle some of those things that we talked about. And Alex, if you could tell us what you eat for breakfast, we would really appreciate that, man. That would be great. Do you eat diddle pops, or what do you eat?
Yeah, what's the deal for real?
Right. Now, what about what about when you're touring? Do you ever teach from the road? Have you ever taught from the road? Have you done clinics, master classes, any of that? Rick, I'll throw it to you. Have you ever done any of that stuff while you're out on the road?
No, but I have every intent to start doing that, because I'm seeing it happen so often now, and seeing that people are very, very successful doing it and earning money out, earning money, teaching, giving a class, a master class, while normally that could be just downtime.
Yeah.
While people are doing sound check and so I think it's a great way to add to your income, and keep your student base going.
Right. Totally.
So you're not gone out, I'm out of your life for a month, so I'll see you a little bit here and there online.
Right, exactly. What about you, Chip? When you've been on the road, have you ever, because I know you're a big clinician guy. I've seen you do many clinics. Have you ever done clinics while you're on the road or on tour or anything like that?
I've done a couple clinics when I was on the road in some very small music stores, but not really so much to say that I've really done clinics while on the road. Most of my clinics happened when the touring stopped after 2001. And after 9/11, our road work kind of dried up. and we started doing more local stuff. And from there, I branched out, and my clinics were me driving out or me flying out to go do the clinics usually. And as far as the lessons online, I was doing lessons. I would have my studio set up with my Skype and my computer, and I had all the fixings just like Rick does now. And I was doing lessons on Skype with people in Sweden and stuff. It was cool.
Wow.
It was
That's
really
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
I
I
taught
think
the
that
garden weasel twirl overseas, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
the
The
garden
weasel.
weasel from France.
Yes, sir.
I love
So,
it. man.
Bart, I got a question for you.
Shoot.
You got a book going on. You're playing and touring, and you're teaching and rocking and rolling. How do you keep your schedule up? How do you schedule your time and avoid going nuts with all the commitments that you have?
Yeah.
Great question. And it's literally what I said at the beginning of the lesson and what you just said, scheduling
Work
my
ethic.
time. Yeah, work ethic. But then also it is scheduling my time. I've always been, I don't know if this is to my detriment or if it's to my benefit. I don't know. But I've always been like, okay, I'm awake. Let's go. It's just been
Wow.
the way that I am. And it hasn't been till recently, honestly. I mean, as a side note, that I'm, my morning routine has always been get up, let's go outside, or go down to the yoga studio and let's do an hour of yoga. Let's stay our body and our brain in shape, right? Because we need it to play the instrument. My idea of first thing in the morning, not when I'm on the road, but when I'm home, even though I teach till late at night, isn't 10 in the morning. I'm up usually before the sun. It's just the way I grew up on a ranch. I grew up on a cattle ranch. And so it's the way my body works. So I'm up and I go out, I do my yoga. And then just recently I started in the last few years kind of easing into things, reading a little bit, kind of getting my brain going. But then I come in, pour the coffee and sit down and go to work. And so I'll usually start my day with answering emails. My schedule is already put together for the day. If I need to reschedule somebody or schedule makeups, I get that done. And then I go to work on my book. The way that I write, this is very much influenced by Bobby Rock. Okay. And if you follow Bobby Rock if you're into him at all, Bobby Rock is a many-time published author. And I got this from him. When I start typing, I don't sit there and stare at the computer screen and type. It's a conscious stream of thought, and I type. Warts and all. Spelling errors, grammatical errors, punctuation, it's there. And then I go back. And once I start making them so bad that I'm not thinking anymore, I stop. And then I go back and I run it. And thank God for Grammarly. I run everything through Grammarly, and it does my spell check for me, gets my punctuation correct. And then I start editing. And that's usually a couple of hours, and you'd be surprised what you can accomplish in a couple of hours. And then I put that to rest. I'll do a little bit of promotion with that on social media for whatever it is I might be working on, a show, a gig, a master class, a clinic, hey, this week we're going to learn left-handed jiwatsuts. So if you want a class, come, take a jiwatsuts class with me. And we work on left-handed jiwatsuts. Well, if I go to teach them, I got to practice them. So I go sit down and work on left-handed jiwatsuts. And then I start my teaching day, or if I'm on the road and there's no lesson, I do that same exact stuff. And then I leave for the gig. I leave for sound check. I leave for load in whenever we've got to leave. And then once the show's over, we're packed out. I'm back to the Airbnb or the hotel. I may have a little snack, and then I'm sitting there on the computer again, talking to my wife. I usually, I'll crash out after that, or sometimes I'm not real tired. I'll sit on the computer and just go back to work. But that's kind of, and there's been many a time falling asleep at the laptop, just kind of dozing off. But that's kind of how I get it done, and I get that question a lot, and it's not something that it's just, I guess, in me. I just get up and go. I don't know.
I think it's that growing up on a ranch ethic that you have, Bart.
And I think that too, Rick. Thank you for that. And I think that also when I was a kid, it wasn't an ethic. It was like, crap, it's snowing out. I don't want to go feed the cattle, but then the cows will die and then I'll get in trouble because the cows are dead.
Yeah.
So you just kind of adapt it, you just kind of adapt this thing. And that's what I do too and I'm sure you guys do too with your practice thing. It's that same thing. It's that same type of thing. Now, okay,
Well,
as far as yes, go ahead.
I have to add this, man. I have to add this because
Mhm.
watching you, we've done what 136 episodes. We're in our
Yes.
third year of this.
Yes.
And you know what it takes to be a professional drummer, because I've always marveled at, you're a sound engineer, you're a recording drummer, you do all the graphics for Deck and all of your promotions, and they're absolutely amazing. You practice snare drum work, you practice drum set work, you write blogs, you're holding down a drum position for over 20 years with a band. It's amazing, man. You don't let anything slip, man. It's so impressive and it's so motivating. I know it's motivated me so much. I'm like, what would Bart do? And
well, thank you, man.
I've said that too, man. I've said that too.
Wow. Well, that's very kind of you guys. I really appreciate that. I really do. Because I think the same thing about you guys, and I love the fact that we have so many drummers that I think hopefully we're helping with our Deck show. I've heard nothing but good things, and I think that I'm not going to tell anybody what to believe in their life as far as spirituality or anything, but I will throw this out there. I put a lot of prayer and a lot of meditation into stuff too, because I think that at the end of the day, my thing is I really want to be kind of like Kenny Aronoff says, I want to be the best that I can be. I know there's a million drummers out there. I mean, I'm on Deck right now with Rick Stojak and Chip Ritter. I mean, these two amazing drummers. I can't out drum you guys, and nor would I want to. It's just that when it's my time to play, I'm going to give you what I got, and I'm going to try to do my best job at it. And so I try to put that into everything. So thank you for that. I appreciate your guys' kind words. And dude, we got to say the thing about Jeremy too. I mean, Jeremy, look at all he does. He's just phenomenal. He is just phenomenal. What about this? Okay, Rick, this is a big one. And I got to throw this out there because this is the part that we're talking about, the work that goes in before the show. Okay. We're talking about meals and eating on the road and staying healthy and sleep and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I think the staying healthy and eating and then also finding your own space, I said that comes into play with this.
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem is that when you're in a band with other humans, and humans are a pain in the ass. I know I'm a pain in the ass. And I also know that humans are gross. Okay. We're just gross things. We're just nasty, horrible creatures. How do you put up with being in a band with other, we are, Chip, think about it. I'm disgusting. How do you put up with being in a band with other people, Rick? Because that's the hardest part about being in a band.
Oh, man. We always say, hey, man, you better be metal about it. As said, you better be tough. You better have a thick skin.
Yep.
Because especially with a bunch of guys,
Oh, dude. Right.
We could get pretty rank.
Yeah.
Right.
Things can get pretty ugly too if you have like a toxic relationship with somebody in the band and you're stuck with them in a van all day and night,
Yeah.
That can get rough.
That's right, Chip. It could get pretty crazy out there because of the amount of time that you are together. It's staggering, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when you're sleeping, you're driving all day, and then you might be sleeping in the same room at night at times. So
yeah.
I think it comes down. One thing that helps, I think, is social skills. Just really getting to know the person.
Camaraderie.
Yeah. Like asking them questions about their life, taking a real interest in their life. Like, asking them something important that might be important to them that you're interested in. Like, like, what's your goal in life, man? What's important to you? What do you like best about that show? What's the best thing about touring? Just getting some great conversation where you can connect.
Yeah.
Rather than just sitting there bump on a log, and awkward silence can be really, really, some people want that silence, but it also can be kind of awkward too. So, getting people engaged, and then I think complimenting people too. So many times I've been on the road with band members and they're all on each other's ass about the performance rather than we fix that up in rehearsal. If there's something not on the bus arguing with each other, man, you guys, you were off key or you sped up or you slowed down, that kind of stuff doesn't create a bond. And
Right.
and so like our hero Dom Famulero would say, be kind to each other. So
Yeah.
I think that goes really, really far. And then the next step actually is giving each other space. For me, a lot of times out with Barnyard Ballers, we'd pull into a city, the gear would get loaded in, we didn't have roadies. We'd load in our own gear, or techs. And that's done. And then the guys would go to the bar straight up. They would hang out at the bar.
Yep.
And I'm like, it's midday. And for me, I'm like, I'm going to get away. I'm going to walk this city. I'm going to see as much as I can. I'm never going to be back in this little town in Belgium again. So I want to walk all over the place and explore. And man, that'll just clear your head. And you're like, wow, this feels like a vacation day. So I try to make every day on the road feel like a vacation day. There is something interesting everywhere as far as I'm concerned.
Oh yeah.
Something cool
I like
to check
that.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I love how you guys are sober and great advocates for that and have helped people out with that. I think that's a great thing, and you've balanced all of that. And I don't think you'd have the energy that you do, Bart, if you were into drinking or drugs at all, So I compliment you. Yeah, I compliment you on that,
Thank you.
I will say this, like for me, I'll partake a little bit, I'll drink a little wine, drink some beer. So I've got to know the balance of that. And sometimes just sitting back and I'm not advocating that anybody goes out and does this, but for me, that's kind of work. Like, wow, and maybe I should go have a beer with the singer.
Yeah.
Yeah. That kind of thing too. So, but
and if somebody is sober, and I don't mean to step on your toes. I'm not taking issue with what you said at all. I agree. That's a hangout. If you are somebody that's sober and the singer wants to have a beer and you feel like you want to connect with them, you don't have to have the beer. You can have whatever it is that you drink. Just the hang, I think, is what you're getting at, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, dude. I didn't mean to. I'm not taking issue at all with that. So
no, I was going to ask you your thought on how you handle that. So that's perfect. You answered my question.
Yeah.
So it's creating that hang.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Bart. Yeah.
Chip, what about you? How do you get along with gross, disgusting people on the road?
Well, one of the main things that helped me get along with everybody was reminding us of what the goal was and getting together and like, why are we in this van? Right. What's the purpose here? And we're trying to build our reputation. We're trying to make money. We're trying to stay afloat and get the band to be publicly recognized. And I would make sure that I get back on track with that and keep that as my main focus, especially when I felt there was trouble or drama going on in the back of van, or somebody wasn't carrying their weight and somebody had a resentment about it. We would I'd try to reestablish the goal, and say, hey guys, we're in this together. We all have to pitch in and help the cause, and the cause is what the band's doing out on the road in the first place. Whether it's selling CDs or talking with the manager or putting gas in the car, in the van, and it doesn't matter. It's just like all for one and one for all. And that's the kind of thing that I would get back to avoid getting involved in the drama of the day to day, you know?
Yeah. That's really well said. One of the things that I kind of do is, you know, there's been a lot of people that have come and gone out of the band. And for, you know, a number of years, especially when I was drinking, you know, my idea of fixing the drama was to jump into the drama. And in my mind, that's what I thought I was doing, but all I was doing was adding to it. So when there is drama, I just walk away. I'm just like, you know what? If there's an issue and that issue is with me, then come talk to me. Your opinion of me is none of my business, and I'm just going to stay right over here. So I don't get involved in it. And I'll tell a couple of stories here in a minute of people that have come into, or that have been in the band and have left, and their drama. But the one thing that I tell myself all the time is that two things. If I'm thinking, you know, I was joking earlier when I was talking about people being gross and humans are gross. I mean, I'm being silly, but you know, if I'm thinking something about this person over here, you know, and it's like, they're just driving me nuts because I've been in a car with them, or a bus or a van or an airplane for the last 8 hours. If I'm thinking that about them, they're thinking it about me too. You know,
Yeah.
it's, you know, so I just have to kind of, hey man, I'm sure I bugged you. So I just kind of try to let it go. If there is an incident where something is said, then, you know, if you're in the wrong, then, hey man, sorry about that. If it's handled in such a way where you get in my face, get ready, because I'm coming back. You know, and you're not going to like it. But I handle the situation. And sometimes I think that's the wrong thing to do, because if you're handling the situation and it's a negative situation that way, then you're lowering yourself to that person's level. And I don't like it when that happens to me. So I try not to do that, but it does happen from time to time. And then you let some time go by and you know, hey, fix it, you know. But I think the main thing is to remember that you're dealing with humans. And like you said, Chip, there's the ultimate goal, whatever the goal is. The goal might be to just, let's get to the next rest stop, you know, because everybody's got to pee, or let's get to the next gas station so everybody can get some trail mix or some nuts, or let's get to a restaurant because 2 out of the 4 people or 2 out of the 6 people are hungry. Let's get them some food. You know, sometimes you have to, you know, you just have to kind of remember those things. And again, we're all human, you know. So I think learning to, you know, basically play nice with the other kids in the pool, you know, is a big plus when you're playing in a band, you know, because you're not always going to see eye to eye, and you're not always going to get along, you know, you're just not. And so just remember that, you know, it's a give and take. It really is. It really
It's
is.
situational too. I mean, if you're in an airplane and there's a baby crying, babies cry,
right? Exactly.
You have to deal with it. You have to learn to deal with things like that. And sometimes there's things where you're able to pull somebody aside and say, hey, you know, when you do this, I feel, using I statements, you know what I mean? I feel when you clip your toenails and they fly into my seat, I feel like you've crossed a boundary, and could you please clip your toenails in your hotel room? You know?
Now this sounds like this is hold on. This sounds like this is something that is a voice of experience, Mr. Ritter.
True story. Or sunflower seeds. If you're going to eat sunflower seeds and in the van, you need to be taking care of the shells and where they go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'll tell this story, and this is something to, you know, and I'm not going to say a name or a gender or anything. I'm just going to tell a story, and I want everybody out there that sees this video ever to realize that this is part of the music business. We had a person in the band for a while, and this person was literally in the band for a minute, you know. And when they first got into the group, the reason they got in the group was because there was a need for this position to be filled, and holy crap, could they play. This person was just phenomenal. And by 3 gigs in, it was like, what happened? What happened to this person? And they just like literally Jekyll and Hyde, literally. And there was one instance, we're sitting up there and I'm playing my drums in the middle of the song, and it came time for a solo that this person was supposed to play. And there was a gigantic hole in the song. And I look over, the person is not on stage. They're behind the stage with a hairbrush bent over, brushing their hair. And this is like 4 songs into the set, 5 songs into the set. We're not talking like they missed the opening song. We're talking in the middle of the gig, and brushing their hair and flipping it back like this, one of those little bottles of personal bottles of wine and a cigarette, just, you know. And so after the gig, the question was asked, why did that? Well, my hands were sore. I just couldn't play. What? This is on a professional gig. You're being paid for this.
Out of here. Out of
here. Oh, you know how many people would want to be paid to play music? And this happened. This was an ongoing thing. And this person was always talking about, and you know, you come across this from time to time, the toxic people around them. Their ex-spouse was a toxic person. The last band that they were in, everybody was toxic. And the last person over here was a toxic person. And this is toxic and that is toxic. Well, if everywhere you go, there's toxic people, chances are pretty good that the common denominator here is not all the other people. Now, I tell that story, and again, you don't know what instrument they played. You don't know anything about these people. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. What I'm trying to point out here is that you are going to run across people like that in any business, in any walk of life.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, a lot of artists are damaged people. They just are. They have something in them that just, you know, they're an artist for a reason. They're a great musician for a reason, because they just, you know, they focused in on their instrument and nothing else. So there may not be some social skills there. There may not be other things like we've talked about. So that person was out of there, but there's a point where you still have to deal with them. And I think what I said a minute ago, don't lower yourself to the level to get in a fight with that person, because once you do, you've lowered yourself to their level. It's time for them to go, and it's time for them to be out of here, which did happen. That problem was resolved, but you will run into that. So don't, you know, there's no reason to lower yourself to a level of being a jerk to them. You know, and it's hard to do, man. It's really hard to do. Sometimes you just want to go get on stage and go play.
You got to remember, there's a lot of dysfunctional people everywhere, and the music business is hard. The music business is hard. The only other business that's more hard than the music business is the movie business.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah.
So there's going to come a time where you're going to run into some dysfunction, and you know that's right. You got some good advice there, Bart. It doesn't help to sink to their level.
It really doesn't. I don't think it does at all. I think that you know, just being, you know, walking away from it, you know. And then also on the same subject, I've got to say this, and this is not a dysfunction thing. This is just a personality trait. Rick, you said something about there's awkward silences. And then we also understand that there's times where you kind of need to just not talk, you know, it needs to be some silence. There needs to be some quiet. And
yes,
recently we played a gig, and there was a person that was helping the band. It was a crew guy, and we had never met this person before. But from the second he got there, he just started talking like he had known us forever. Like this guy had known each one of us individually forever, and we're all kind of like, have we worked with this guy before? I didn't recognize him. Now, it kind of became a joke, because the guy came into the room and started working and talking. And you got to realize, like we were talking about the tip of the iceberg thing, when you see a band playing, you're witnessing the tip of the iceberg. You don't see the iceberg under the water. So the gig is an hour and a half, but it's going to be an 8-hour day before it's through. And we're sitting up getting ready for the gig and doing sound check. And this guy started talking and talking. And it was like one big long sentence for 8 hours. He never stopped. And it kind of became a joke where we were just like, we're all looking at each other like, what is this? And then we go to eat dinner and he sits down beside and he just keeps on going.
He's like, yeah, that reminds me.
Dude, completely. And it was like, oh my gosh, man. So maybe sometimes there's a place where maybe if you look around and people are like, yeah, great, and they're walking away from you, maybe just give it a minute, take a breath.
Yes.
And again, that's dealing with people. That is dealing with people. So those are a couple of road tips from the road, and these are not really necessarily a playing thing. This isn't about how to play your instrument. There comes a certain point in where it's taken for granted that you can play, right? That's taken for granted. Hey, I can play my instrument. I can do my job. It's all the other stuff that comes into being on the road that makes it really hard. And I think that's what we're talking about here, and why we kind of decided to do the show. And we just put my name on it because I just got off the road. I was on the road all year. We've been working like crazy this year. So I'm very blessed for that. Rick, what about you? You got to have a couple things to add to this before we sign off. What do you got to add to this, to do's or don'ts while you're on the road? Well, hey, let's do that. Do's or don't. Give me a do, give me a don't while you're on the road.
Okay. Do be prepared. Know your songs, and don't be late.
I like that one. Chip, do or don't. Give me a do and a don't while you're on the road.
Do take a shower. and be courteous to others when it comes to being in the same van for 8 hours. Be aware
that was two do's. Give me a don't. Give me a don't.
Oh. I can't really say my don'ts. They're R-rated.
Oh.
Okay.
Don't have too high expectations of the venue. Don't assume they're going to have a dressing room. Don't assume there's going to be a place to change. Just don't assume anything about the venue. Just don't have your expectations higher. It comes back to what Rick said: is do be prepared.
Yeah. I like that.
How about you, Bart?
Okay, my do would be kind of echoing what both of you guys said. Do be prepared 100% in every way, shape, and form, especially with your gear, because my bass player and I, Greg, we always joke about how, like, I got one right here, literally one wing nut, one nut can bring the whole band to its knees. I won't take it off. It'll take too long. One bolt can bring the band to its knees. And the other night I'm setting up in Vegas. I put the drum set together and the wing nut that holds the top tom on stripped out. Okay. Luckily, in my little box of tricks, I got extra wing nuts, so I was prepared there. So do be prepared. Be prepared for, you're hungry and you're not going to there's no food backstage. Have a Cliff Bar, have a whatever. Do be prepared. Don't let the people around you, and hey, when I say this, I'm talking to myself because I have done this. Don't let the people around you just drive you bonkers, just because they're people again. And I was joking, we're all humans and we're gross and we're this and that. I mean, people are people. And I have for many years, I just let things bother me and you wouldn't say anything. And like you said, Chip, you build up a resentment, don't do that. Don't do that. Remember the end goal, like Chip said, just be as professional as you can and act. Look, if you were flipping burgers at McDonald's and you're a professional burger flipper, you're gonna treat that job with respect. If you're a CEO of a company, you're gonna treat that job with respect. Whatever your job is, you're gonna treat it with respect to keep on going with it. treat your time in a band and a group with respect, and don't be an idiot. You know, it's that simple.
I like it.
Do we like that? Was that good?
Right on.
How was that? Was that a good
Yeah,
episode?
I love that. Yeah,
Was that a
That
good
was
episode?
really good.
I love it.
I think it was great. I think it was
Yeah.
great. Okay, so Rick, you have our list there. What are we talking about next week? Is Jeremy going to be back? Jeremy, I think, is going to be back, right?
Let me see. Jeremy Steamroller Steinkoller's schedule. I think Jeremy will be back. I don't have a note.
Okay.
And our topic, I don't know. We'll have to look up what our topic is.
Okay, I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. And then I'm going to say this because I said this at the beginning of the episode and I blew it. Jeremy's the guy that usually sets up StreamYard, and we stream to Facebook, 2 platforms on Facebook, and to YouTube. Well, guess what? We didn't stream to Facebook today. We streamed to YouTube. I'm sorry. I blew it,
Yeah.
but I will
We
take
can still pull it and put it up on Facebook.
We're going to. That's what we're
I
going to
can do
do.
that.
Yes, well, Chip's going to do that. Sorry, guys. I apologize for that, but that was my blunder when I set up the meeting today. Everybody have a great week. Go practice. If anybody wants to reach out for drum lessons, it doesn't matter what it's about. If it's you wanted to, like our friend Fred took a lesson with me with some technology stuff, or if you want to be a better teacher and you want to work out of certain books or reading or whatever, reach out to any of us. We're always here on deck. And Jeremy will be back with us next week. And Rick, play some of your cool toys for us. I want to hear some bitchin' noises.
Bye, guys.
See ya.